I didn't realize until um, a gay person in our youth group came out. Um, there were some people, it was kind of split. Some people were accepting, some people were a bit more not accepting, um, but not to the point where there was any discrimination against her. There are just some people that just weren't that weren't for the idea. And my youth pastor at the time would always, kind of cherry pick certain parts of the Bible about homosexuality to kind of like fit his agenda. So like he'll read like one verse out of Leviticus, but like exclude the whole chapter and was like, oh yeah, this part about gay people. Yeah, just letting you know. And he would kind of use that as a way to say like, hey, I'm completely not for this. He even told a story about a gay woman who asked for his help, and he just felt like, like, oh, the Lord was just telling me to help her even though I don't condone her lifestyle and stuff like that. And so at that point I was like, okay, there is a openly gay person here, and the church is kind of split. I could invite people here with, just letting them know, like, hey, some people are for it, some people are against it. I'll let you know who you should, like, get close to and who you should kind of like stay away from if you actually are going to talk about that. And then it wasn't until my junior or senior year of high school, one of the girls in my youth group, different girl, she came out. She was really on fire for the Lord. She she didn't even think about trying to compromise her sexuality. Um, but even though everybody kind of told her to, everybody who was like, against it kind of told her to, but she was like, okay, I got this group of people over here, saying that it's, something that I should do. And if I want to step into faith, I should probably do it. And, she talked to my youth pastor at the time, and he refused to baptize her because she was gay. And that kind of made me not only feel like she was unsafe, but it also made me feel unsafe because at that point I was kind of like wrestling with my own sexuality as well. And I was like, you know, if she is refused baptism at this church, I don't even know if I'm safe here, you know? And I was
Leah,
in the
one
closet.
question. Yeah, one question about that. Because you raised a lot of good points. And first thing I want to say is it's unfortunate that yourself, those two young ladies you mentioned, or anyone would go through something like that, whether it be a church or school or anywhere else. How old, like what was the age range, I guess, for these young ladies? Because you mentioned high school. Was it closer to adulthood or was it like early teens?
Early teens. So for my youth group, it was freshmen to, well, it was mainly like middle school and high school, but like they had the high schoolers and middle schoolers like kind of separated in groups. So high school girls would range from freshman to senior. And so I was older. I was one of the older girls, and she at that point was, I believe, a sophomore. So
Okay, because I
she
asked
was
that
a bit
question
younger.
um, because that's from what I remember. I'm not that old, but from what I remember, you're learning so much about yourself at that age, right? You're learning about your sexuality. You're forming your sexual identity. You're finding things that attract you that maybe didn't a few years earlier. And I used to be very active in the church as I prepared for full disclosure. I was a part of Bible studies. I conducted Bible studies. I even gave Bible readings. Um, I've read the Bible cover to cover. I know my Bible. I may not be as well versed and skilled as I
Hmm.
used to be, but I know more than the average person because the average person has even opened up a Bible, right? So,
Right.
um, even with that said, love is love.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be, and this is not me talking down on the pastor. I'm pretty sure he or she has good intentions as well. But I think a lot of things that gets lost in the good word is that it is not necessarily our place to judge.
Mhm.
Right? The Bible speaks on that, and it's very clear on that. And I'm looking at it, the church. I remember the church as a kid. The church was that safe place that wherever you were, whomever you are, um, whatever the color of your skin, it was your protection. The church was supposed to be what protected you from the world because let's be very honest, the world is a difficult place to navigate. And if you have your friends who are facing this type of difficulty, and if you're, as you mentioned, you're questioning your own sexuality, those are probably things you don't want to go through at that age. And one question I would have for you is how important was that period of time to you now that you can look back and see exactly what you went through and how there is people who are going through something that possibly you would have eventually gone
Yeah, at that period of my life, like, I didn't realize how crucial it was for my development, um, as, like, a young adult now. Um, it's just like, the interactions that I've had with people, yeah, I can't remember every single one, but, of course, these specific ones that I had with my friends that were like, the pastor refused baptism to me. My mom was trying to drill in all these Bible verses and telling me that being gay is wrong, and it drove me into, like, suicidal thoughts, like, those interactions mainly what really kind of, like, shamed me, I guess, into the closet, and whenever I was actually trying to reconcile the fact that I may not be straight, it was just those things that kind of pushed me back into the closet, not because I felt like it was wrong, it's just because I felt like I would be judged and I felt like I would be disowned and I felt like I would be discriminated against. And like with me being a black woman in a predominantly white school, also predominantly white church, it's more racially diverse now, but it's just, at that point, I was like, the second I come out, it's going to be, you know, a huge deal because I was heavily involved in leadership at a young age. I was the girl in youth group that led worship for the youth services. I was the girl in youth group that got asked to for the youth Sundays, not the youth Sundays, the youth like nights. I was asked like every now and then to like lead a Bible study, and like I was like the squeaky clean, Christian girl that people looked up to. And so if I came out, then I felt like I was kind of doing everybody else a disservice because they all looked up to me and they all admired me. And that's kind of, whenever I realized, like, well, that in itself is already kind of dangerous. I'm not even a church leader, like, officially. I haven't gone to seminary, but like from a young age, I was playing guitar in the worship band, I was singing on stage, I was doing a bunch of stuff in leadership. I worked the children's ministry whenever I could. Like, I wasn't even in leadership. I didn't even preach, but people still looked to me as if I was some sort of rich famous pastor at like this mega church or something, and like, that I could not mess up. And it wasn't even just the church, it was outside of the church, people that I knew, relatives, close family friends that I thought like I could just kind of be myself around. So that time in my life, like, me having that microscope on me at such a young age kind of delayed like uh my sense of vulnerability, I guess, like me feeling like I can actually be vulnerable. Um, it it really kind of like stopped that for me, like because I was like, okay, if I say what I feel, if I say what I what my desires are, I'm going to be reprimanded for it. And like I constantly had that mindset, which is why, as far as like relationships, platonic or romantic, just relationships in general, building relationships with people, like vulnerability is the number one thing that like I struggle with.